It's great. I'm going to call the meeting of October to order. Beck, if you could do attendance, that'd be great.
Sure. Cora? Here. Jody? Here. Vicki? Here. Rocky? Gail?
Here.
Matt? Chuck?
No.
Margaret?
Here.
And Sarah? Here. And we have Lizzie here.
We don't have Lizzie here. So Lizzie Barrett, correct? Bassett. You know, I practiced that this morning too. So let's see. Lizzie is our new student board member. So we're excited to have you on board. It's going to be exciting.
You just wait.
You just jump on one of the committees, wayfinding. How's that? Okay, first agenda item is approval of the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions, changes? No? Good. Can we get a motion?
Gail, I think we could do all three of those together.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the three,
Yeah.
yeah, right together. Just the whole approval of the consent agenda.
Right.
I make a motion to approve all.
I'll second.
Okay. There. Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye. Okay. Excellent. So are there any public comments on anything that is not on the agenda?
Not today.
Okay. Okay, excellent.
I would like to add that we did send out the bills for
That's what
It's been
a couple mistakes on our end too, but
That's all you heard about it.
we got them out, so apologize again for that.
Okay, that the old business.
Sure, just two quick reports. If you haven't noticed, the third street lighting is installed. Yes, the work
Right.
it is perfectly beautiful, pedestrian lighting on the sidewalk. I did send out a press release. It should be in the paper today. Gail and, Margaret and Cora all gave me great comments about it, so I'm just really pleased that that was completed, and now we can just go on and get more lights up this year, so. Margaret.
But there are marks
I-
and chipped paint and dirt on them.
I know,
And I don't know who will be responsible.
Well, nobody knows. I mean, it could be, I don't know yet. It could be DPW. They were stored there for a long time. I'm a contractor, so I have to find out where that happened. Well, some of them do need to be put up. But let's think on the positive side of it.
Yeah.
Shining
No.
brilliant.
And now I'll just add one thing on the third street lights. Cora and I went one evening and pulled all the twinkly lights.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yep, they're all out except there's one light up on like the parking lot at, what is it, Spring and Third, like the one that's in the parking lot there. There was still old original lights that were wrapped all the way out the branches, so we
Wow.
couldn't get that one, and we weren't sure if that one got unhooked, but there was two other ones that had super high strands we couldn't reach, and I have texted Lucas the location of all of them, and he said that he would take care of those.
Yeah, I was quite nervous about, we were so excited to do that and I didn't want any electrocution, so.
No, everything's all good. We had no issues. Everything, they were like, they were
Good
snipped
help.
at yeah, it was just really easy.
Yeah.
We got it done in an hour, so.
Anybody happen to notice
And they
that
picked it up in my trash too.
did it shine too much on the bluff? Did anybody happen to?
No, I
thought I thought there was a
lot of really great, just it.
It doesn't shine.
There's a few, just like a few, it's fine.
I was
It's-
reading through that was
Yeah.
a comment.
No, it was
Okay.
concentrated just the way that we assumed it was gonna be. It looks great. It was a great project.
They
to
kind of
see
looked like they were there
completed.
forever.
Yeah.
The
As they should.
poles during
Yeah,
the day and the lights at night.
Yeah.
I had one of my, the day it was installed, I was talking to my employees, and the one girl who's lived in Harbor Springs her whole life goes, oh, those weren't always there.
Yeah, I really honestly think that we're not gonna, a lot of people probably aren't gonna really even notice that they,
Which actually is
no, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
Yeah.
looks great. It does look
Um,
great.
And then the Merchants Walkway, demolition is supposed to start sometime early next week. Don't know which day exactly, but this dig has been called and, that's when we'll start seeing some action there, so.
Excellent.
Excellent.
That's only 9 years in the making. No, I'm just kidding.
Checking them off one at a
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
Under old business, any comments from the public?
I drove down the night you asked me to, because Harbor Hills, night I was driving,
Mhm.
and it was lovely. Yes, it was just lovely. I was like, oh, yeah. I mean, like you just said, it's not in your face, they're just there, and it's really nice. It was really nice. So,
Yeah.
thanks for hanging in there.
Okay, under new business, we're going to call on Victor to come up and talk about the City of Harbor Springs Economic Development Strategy. It's just a draft, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. If I stay seated. Okay, all right. All right, so the draft economic development strategy is something the RRC committee has been working on for several months now. It is one of the best practices listed in the RRC list of 32 best practices, and that's also something that's just beneficial for the town to have that we've never had, was a strategy forward for how we want to maintain a strong economy and get back to a strong economy if we ever kind of get into a recession, which I don't foresee, but we have to be prepared, and that's the whole point of preparing a strategy. As you know, probably don't know or may know that Harbor Springs is one of the only communities in the state that have an RRC committee. Usually you hire consultants or staff to do all this work, but we had volunteers working on this economic development strategy, just like we do with all of our other things in the RRC. So that's why it probably took a little bit longer than it would normally take, but it was a lot of good conversations and a lot of discussion went into making this plan. So it might not look as shiny as some of the other plans out there that other cities have with photos and graphs, and et cetera, but really just our hometown version of bare bones what a draft should be. So the first part really is just statistics, kind of just basic stats that you're kind of required to have. And so if you guys don't see anything glaringly wrong with that, there's really no need to focus there. We also kind of had a lot of discussions about what are some of the assets and elements of our city. And the reason for that is we kind of wanted to highlight, what we do have here. So if a business or an individual is looking to relocate here, they know, oh, Harbor Springs does have this. They do have, a marina, they do have assisted living, they do have, et cetera. But we also want to show people what we don't have in case there's a gap that we want to fill, or someone thinks that they can fill and come here, such as, bed and breakfast. We do have plenty of short-term rentals, but we don't have any, I don't think we have many or any bed and breakfast, maybe one. So those, for example, those are the gaps. We have strengths where we have a lot of things that we have here that we probably may or may not need more of, but we also have things that a potential business owner might see and be like, oh yeah, we need more of that. That includes public services, parks, amenities, businesses, lodging, culture, entertainment, and et cetera, all those things that fit under any kind of physical space or infrastructure. We talked about, we discussed opportunities and challenges. So I think this is kind of important too, like where there's opportunities in the town to improve things. And, a lot of the focus was on Bay Street and 3rd Street in the CBD. Bay Street is an entrance of, from the marina perspective, you're looking at Harbor Springs from the bay, and there's some blighted buildings. There's not a lot of activity, commercial activity going on Bay Street. It's called for in the master plan, and it's something that would be ideal to have a freshened up Bay Street. You have a large parking lot from the marina, and it's arranged in such a way that pedestrians who park there, they're kind of avoiding Bay Street, right? They don't go to Bay Street. They go from the marina parking lot to get to Main Street. Similar things with downtown, with 3rd Street, and obviously the lighting and other things there are proving that, but we want to make both 3rd Street and Bay Street attractive and more user-friendly. Talk about arts and culture, recreation. Those are two themes that we think Harbor Springs should focus on for strength. There's plenty of, there's a big music scene. There's a lot of artists in the area. And of course, we have an abundance of nature and recreational opportunities here, and we should continue focusing on those and lifting those up because those attract people, not just visitors and tourists, but also people who live here. Those things interest people, arts, culture, and recreation. We highlight that we have our education as a strength and an opportunity. We have all K through 12 schools here. We even have a nonprofit like Topo Nexus and other organizations that work for education, even if it's not mainstream education. So I think focusing on that and realizing that a lot of our workforce does come from the education We have a lot of teachers, counselors, and support staff in the schools that live here or near here. Of course, history, we have 3 history museums. And utilizing those history museums to strengthen our economy would be wise. Our challenges, I think a lot of you probably already know these, and we've talked about them in other plans, but housing, summertime parking, our demographics, technology, and the changing climate. These are all things that have been identified that could potentially affect or change our economy. Housing, of course, availability of the housing for the types of employees and people we need to support our economy. Summertime parking has been an ongoing issue for I don't know how long. The RRC committee was focused on summertime parking because, of course, parking in the winter is really not an issue. It's the congestion in July and August. Population demographics, what we really wanted to focus on was how far we are from the state's median age. We're 62.5 Harbor Springs, and that's all right. We for some reasons we've been explainable for some reasons. We have a lot of retired people, and we're known as a resort community, and a lot of young people can't afford here. But in order to create a sustainable economy and a sustainable community, you need a mix of people of different ages. And I think the committee recognized that we're not trying to strive for a goal to our average age to be in line with the states, but to recognize that we are an older population. We are missing some of those elements that other communities have, the younger generations. Technology communication, of course, we regularly have complaints about Wi-Fi and infrastructure and upload, download speed and outages. So internet service has been something as well as cell phone reception. And I don't know exactly, city's not in control of those necessarily. Other companies are in control of those, but if there's anything we can do to figure out to improve that, so people who want to come here to relocate their businesses or to work remotely, they have the infrastructure in place to support that. Finally, changing climate, and particularly there's a couple of things with the changing climate is the fluctuating water levels. That is something that has always been a concern. Another one is ice. The bay hasn't frozen over in 5 years. You know, ice fishing is no longer, it was one time a big recreational thing here. It's no longer really happening. So at least at the bay because of that. So skis, it's harder for, we're probably not going to do an ice rink at Kiwanis Park because it doesn't get cold enough to maintain an ice rink. And not enough cold days for that, or even ski hills might have trouble making more snow and for as long. So how's that going to affect our economy if we're shifting from a milder to a mild winter? And you might, even if there's those once in 100-year floods that are becoming, or rains are becoming more common, how is that going to impact our coastline here with storm surges and et cetera? So those are things we need to keep in mind for challenges. The next section, section 3, goes into the vision and goals. We have 4 goals, really. The vision is something we spent one whole meeting at, and Jody knows this, but one whole meeting talking about our vision, and probably could have talked about it more, but it was good. I think Danny Roter, who's a resident on the RRC committee, kind of put their initial draft out there, and we worked on it. So the goals, we have 4 main goals. One is to be comprised of a viable community-oriented establishment that will foster and recognize a resort and recreation theme, just recognizing that that's the meat and bones of our economy here. We also say Harbor Springs will become home to a diverse mix of businesses and industries, attractively developed and maintained, that provides meaningful employment opportunities and it complements the character of the community. We also say that Harbor Springs will have a robust year-round economy that offers diverse services and goods. And Harbor Springs will increase its total number of year-round residents and strive for more balanced age structure. So those are the goals, and then we highlighted several projects and tactics. I won't go into them all. I'm sure you probably read them, but we have projects and tactics that are planning and policy, such as creating retention and programs, incentivizing property owners to take care of their property. And we also have infrastructure projects and tactics. One of them, for example, similar to doing lights on 3rd Street, but be a little more broad. We talk about improving 3rd Street aesthetically. We talk about orienting Spring Street for more pedestrian and better pedestrian flow. Providing citywide wireless internet was something that came up and was pretty important. And also adding appropriate directional signage when necessary. Then our last category was programs and activities, and of course that really focusing on kind of events we have, and we talked about more off-season events. How we can use our cultural facilities to promote cultural events. And we have the Ottawa Stadium that is owned by the city, so people are confused by that. The Ottawa Stadium is the city's property, we lease it out to the school, but we're allowed to use it for any time when the school is not using it. So, how can we utilize facilities like that to promote more cultural events and more activities? Collaboration with the library, and then promoting different programming that appeals to different age groups. Different age groups, those that exist here currently in the area, but also to attract other age groups that might not be as prevalent. So Fall Fest is a good example that attracted a good mix of people. But we do have some events that attract younger people, like Sledding at Kiwanis Park. It's geared more toward kids. But then we do offer like recreation programs like pickleball lessons and yoga that middle-aged to older people tend to focus on more. So continuing providing more events and activities that reach a diverse range of age is what we're looking at. So from my perspective, what we want to do process-wise is come to the DDA for any input, especially on our goals, projects, vision that we have read here. Take those comments, go to DDA, go to the Planning Commission for review, and finally go to the council for review and approval. That way we have many different eyes looking at it and giving their input. The one comment that we have that you haven't seen in here that I received since putting this in public is that we talk about housing being a challenge in here, but we don't have any goals related to housing. So I think that's something that I will reconsider maybe at the Planning Commission level and council is putting a goal in about housing, because it is something that's been highlighted in our master plan and it's highlighted here, but we don't have a goal about it. Any thoughts, questions?
Any
Suggestions?
discussion?
3rd Street, I'm obviously very attached to. And after we did our walk around, I went back and I was measuring for trees and things like that. And I realized on 3rd Street, there's at least 3 different spots, and I'll send you photographs of them, that have exposed, like when you're looking from Main Street, you just see a whole bunch of electrical, that to me should be covered up. And there's on the corner of Gardner and 3rd, there's actually a wire, a big thing that's hanging from the post, the telephone pole, over to some box, and it's above. I mean, it's like a trip hazard. It's like this far off the ground. And then off of Spring, I mean, when you look down, you just see a bunch of exposed like meters and things like that. I mean, I really think there's got to be a way to cover those up. And we talked a little bit about art projects that maybe that these get boxed up with some kind of metal box that can be locked so someone can't mess around with all of this stuff, and then paint it with something that's decorative.
That's a good point. It kind of combines both our improving 3rd Street and art. I would have to check with Lucas because those might be the cable or telephone lines too. So I would have to just double check to make sure that we have the authority just to go there and do that without. But if it is the AT&T or Spectrums, then we'd have to coordinate with them on how to get that.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of people see wires hanging out, and our guys usually don't leave wires like that, but it may be just the cable company.
Yeah.
But we'll still look at
This
it.
is free-hanging
Yeah.
above the ground. I mean, it really shouldn't be like that, no matter who's in.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Is there anything, I know it's a lot of material, do you see as a board any discrepancies when you look at our development plan versus this?
No, and I think we've talked a lot about this. I had an opportunity to meet up with our past DDA director during Book Fest and got a chance to chat with her for a little while. And we chatted a lot about what she's done with Alpena and getting them involved with the RRC and asking how close Harbor Springs was, because that was a project that she really wanted to see completed, and the benefits and what it's done for the city and what she's been able to accomplish because of being in the RRC and the grant money and this and that she's been able to the city's been able to work with as they've become RRC compliant. I think it's really good that we're getting to these final stages to getting this done, because I think it'll open up a lot of benefits for our city that we don't have access to right now. I think the only couple things that stick out a lot to me is that only 30, I think it was like 32% of homes are homestead in our area and our median age. I think Harbor Springs, if we want to stay diverse and we want to stay thriving and businesses want to stay thriving, as much as people don't want to recognize that, we aren't going to survive 6 weeks out of the year. I mean, I have sons that most of their graduating classes, my 26-year-old son, they aren't here. They left. They can't afford to be here. My son left this area because he couldn't afford, I mean, he's in Pellston, but we keep talking about employment and we keep talking about employees and we keep talking about business and we keep talking about all of that, but we're missing the fact that yes, we need the summer business. I love the summer business. I'm a business owner that thrives in that as well. But if we do not figure out a way to get past this mark and create more diverse housing, create more diverse and families, bringing younger families here, Harbor Springs does not have to be an older community. And if we don't change the narrative on that, it's not gonna, I mean, the average age now is 62.9. What's in 10 years? And how are they gonna support all of our businesses then year round? So I really think that that's something that the city and every committee really needs to focus on.
Like to add on to that, when you mentioned that 32%, that's also can be a little misleading because a lot of those people who are homestead are also away for 4 or 5 months of the year in the
Yeah.
winter time.
Yeah.
They go to Florida or.
Yeah, and I mean, and I've broken it down over the years that I've been in business, and not even just at Harbor, when I worked in Bay Harbor, and I've been in my very select like resort service industry for 20 years. We have seasonal residents, we have summer people, we have, the seasonal residents leave. I mean, so, and that's just the way that it is, but I'm not seeing that we're doing anything to keep the graduating classes here, to keep the young people here. And I think it's a huge, huge disservice when I hear comments saying, well, they can buy outside of town. Are you
No.
kidding me? Well, that's great, but they're who we need here. They're the people that we hire. They're the people that are gonna keep businesses here. They're the young people that are gonna start businesses that I heard during the candidate forum, asking, what can the DDA do to get businesses into town? Well, you need people to start businesses. I mean, that's the bottom line. And you need the businesses to stay and you need them to be able to employ people. I mean, Cora and I have had big conversations about that. So I really hope that there's
I
a
think
difference.
I think not even looking at the younger generation, I think a lot of times when people, if they want to come to this area and they want to live here. For us 25 years ago, even 25 years ago, living in the city and living just outside the city was a huge difference.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean,
I bought my house. I mean,
yeah,
we could talk all day about this part, but going back to that, I really hope that is a big focus of where Harbor needs to look, is we need to, the age group is continually getting older and older, and housing everywhere is expensive. I mean, we were looking up in Marquette and it's super expensive. So, yeah.
Just this, from your report saying that, from 2022 to 2023, that increased 32.48%. From 2023 to 24, the housing costs.
Yes.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And before that, the year before was 13.24. So, I mean, but
that's just not Harbor.
No,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, this specifically, Harbor from 2019 to 2024 had an 80% increase, which is much higher than other areas and other municipalities in this area.
Yeah.
We didn't do a comparison here, but we've done comparison for our assessors, and so yeah, it's a lot. 5
It's a
years
lot.
increase, it's almost double.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be able to buy my house today. In my house, I've only been in this town for 10 years. I mean, to see what my house went, what I bought my house for 10 years ago and what people are telling me they could sell it for now. I'm like, that's fantastic, but where am I going? I'm gonna live in my camper. But I really hope that, I would say out of anything that I read, I think that that's the most, for me, that's the most concerning aspect is, you know, having kids that are 26 and 23. And I mean, Brendan's still in this area, but Matthew's not. And most of the kids that Matthew graduated with, and he's 23, they're not here and they can't stay here. And that's the arguments and stuff that I see on social media and the comments that I hear from people. It's a very big disconnect from the people that need to understand that we aren't going to continue to be a thriving community if we do not have the people to stay here.
But yet there's that whole group that didn't want to have housing, you know, multiple housing in.
Because they said that they could live outside of town, which is just
Silly.
insane.
But an argument I saw on social media that was interesting to think about it was the fact that a lot of our areas covered with, under the conservancy that were bought as tax breaks. And so there's a lot of that land, we couldn't, it cannot be developed.
Correct.
And that, I don't know if that's something that we still
Well,
continue.
and that's a good, and from a land, there's really only three ways you can increase housing, right, or add housing. One is sprawl. And so, and that's what the Conservancy and the townships are then preventing by conserving a lot of land, is preventing what you see like in the metropolis, is just sprawl. Other is to go higher, and we know our community doesn't really want to go high, you know, we talk about stories. So the other way is to infill. So what you have there and then increase more housing. So that's with the sprawl, with the not wanting to go higher, then higher stories, and without being able to sprawl out, which I agree is not necessarily always a good thing. You're left with the infill. So fill in the housing, fill in the lots that you have here. And those are three options. It's either that or don't do anything. And then you can't build that base. So unfortunately, that's where we're stuck at.
Go ahead.
Well, I think most of you are probably keeping pretty good track of what's happening in town now. And when planning commission put the new zoning code and council put the new zoning code in place, there are a lot of thought went into Nikki. I totally agree with you, you know that. And then you see what happens. So we're open to any suggestion, planning commission, council, vote, ideas you have and support, because it's tough. There's an element in town that have what they want and they don't want anybody else here, to be real honest about it. And that's what's pushing back on us, you know, smaller lots, duplexes by right, ADUs. Those are very baby steps for what you're talking about, but at least we're going the right direction with that. And you've seen what's happening with even those very modest changes. Truly, those are very modest changes. You can ask Jeff how many people have applied for any of those since it went in place. But at least I feel like that's heading us the right direction. You know, we need some apartments if we're gonna do, you know, we need some multiple housing. That's really the only affordable, one of the few affordable spaces in this town. It's a huge problem. I totally agree with you, and we need support across the board from all the cities to help us get there.
The irony of driving out of town, I thought this to be completely ironic, and everybody knows who I'm talking about, but the big house, the house that was torn down that's now being rebuilt has the yes sign in front of it. And that just, to me, I looked at it and I was kind of like, well, this all makes sense. It's the whole not in my backyard mentality, 100%.
Except today it includes the front yard and the side yard.
Yeah. Well, and too, and it's a community, it's a area-wide problem. I'm not under any illusion that Harbor Springs is gonna fix it.
No.
But we do need to be part of it. That's always been my stance. We have to do our part, whatever that is. And I think by supporting Housing North, which we hope pay salary for that, that's a start. Because it's a community, it's a huge area-wide problem. But we need all the support we can get from everybody who works in this city.
for it. Not an easy one to solve.
So, well, mine's on a different house, not the housing topic, so I don't.
Oh,
I-
wait,
I-
Well, one more on housing, one more on housing.
Or has housing too.
Oh. Reynolds Field. Is it used that often?
Reynolds Field is outside the city limits, it's not owned by us, but I don't know, that's a
Oh,
school question.
Oh,
And that's right
Yeah.
past Bay Bluff, that's technically the township.
Our city limits ends at Lake there. So something that I was reading in here and like that kind of follows along, and I've said this to a couple people before, and I don't know if it's even something that's possible or if it's something I made up in my mind. But, or if it's even, I don't know if it's feasible. So something that said incentivize property owners to upkeep properties. So I was kind of wondering like how we would go about like DDA considering financial or other incentives. So is that something we'd consider doing grants or something to help people?
There was a period of time where, when Rachel was part of it, when we were first originally talking about RRC, there was a way that the DDA could allot a certain amount of money aside where we had talked about helping people be able to paint their buildings, put in windows, do landscaping projects and things like that. But then when Rachel left, a lot of that, I'm sure it's in the notes somewhere, but there was a part of that we were working on, what that process looked like, how people would apply for those grants and things like that. So it's somewhere in the
Yeah,
notes
so-
of stuff.
Just to go up that, that's our next topic of conversation at the RRC committee, is to talk about what incentive policies could look like.
So my other flip side to that is how can we incentivize homeowners to rent their houses out long term? And like my thought is there a way we can give them a tax break, just like as if you had a homestead tax, like if you are a resident, instead, if you were to rent out your home long term to be able to have some sort of tax break, not as much as if it was, homesteaded and then you left for 5 months, but instead you were able to, and I don't even know if that's science possible, but.
It's worth a discussion, and we'll look into it at the RRC, yeah.
But I think that it would be a really awesome thing to do, because there are some people who just buy a house that then they just want it for their retirement and they're not even gonna live in it. They're gonna do maybe short-term rental, buy the books or not buy the books. And then they're going to leave it like that for the next 10, 15 years when it could be, a rental, and the way that they could find it, they're like, oh, well, I can't make money doing that. Well, if they were getting some sort of a tax break, even if it was minor, maybe it would make it a little more appealing to people who do things for tax breaks.
Becky, you have a comment.
I was going to comment on incentivizing the businesses to keep their.
Yeah.
Two ways you can go about that is a low interest loan at the bank. You could partner with a local bank that would say, okay, for you through the DDA, and I've seen that done many times. It kind of lost favor when interest rates were so low for a long time. There wasn't that much. You couldn't go to zero, it's almost. But another way is a facade improvement grant program, and I've put two of those together, one in Lake Orion, one in Petoskey, and you have to have a set of design guidelines, and there has to be a group that people apply for it, and the committee will decide who gets the money and how.
That was kind of what Rachel was putting
Sure
together.
was, yeah.
That's exactly.
Rachel, I thought of adding this earlier, but since Rachel has been in Alpena, that town has turned around almost twice or 3 times. It's crazy.
The
how
first thing that
effective
she
she's
did
been.
was the first thing she said was that they became RRC compatible. That was part of how I believe the movie theater happened, and there was a bunch of businesses, they just did a mural project. They've really. But like she said, she doesn't have pushback in her community that we have here.
They're thrilled.
And that's
They're
the
thrilled.
biggest thing, is the ideas, and I know that everything that she has that was being attempted here is what she did there, but the people there are so grateful because they haven't ever had it before. And that was the first thing she said. She's like, she's not going up against what we are going up here. And I would say that to a room full of people. Everything that she wanted to do here, she did there, and she doesn't have the battle that Victor's been having, trying to get people to understand that this is not this, she didn't turn Alpena into Flint. She created a community that
It's
they
so
put,
proud
that
of
they
itself.
put money back into it. And I told her, I said, honestly, that's the biggest thing that I am so frustrated about, is that there's so many things that, even though we're Harbor Springs, needs improvement. And I just don't, it just makes me crazy.
I would just insert one thing there when the enhancement committee did their walk around. This town is darling, it's picture postcard
Yes.
perfect, but when you're looking at it with that critical eye, we found so many
There's
things.
so
There's
many
so
things
many-
that need to be
And it's
fixed.
not things that we're gonna take the whole town and change
Right.
No.
every part of it. It's just these little tiny tweaks that are gonna make it that much nicer.
Well, on another, some of the existing buildings, there's one in particular right on Bay Street and Spring, no. Yeah, Spring, that big white building that is just,
There's a couple buildings.
is there anything that can be done by the city to, like, tell them they need to paint it at least,
I
or?
don't think
No,
you
we
can tell
can't,
an
we
owner.
can't do that. We do have light, if the building's in such disrepair that can't be habitable, we can do something about it, but our code is very, city code is very, weak, or I would say weak or lenient, but it's absent with a lot of these provisions on how to force anything in the CBD, to do something. However, there's potential. I mean, we can look into it, but yeah, it's one thing to tell someone that, you know, they need to paint. It's another thing if your building's falling apart.
Well, if their back porch is falling apart, that definitely should never have someone stand on it because the railing is
And we've had-
collapsing into the alley.
And we've been in that, you're talking about a specific case, and, you know, we're always in a constant battle with that individual, but.
I don't know if that's is that still in the trust of Mary Kay Jones?
That one, I'm not sure, I'd have to check about that, but there's another building.
That's
too
where
on
Harvard
Bay Street.
Spring Title was.
No,
Sandy
No,
Kohler.
we're talking about
That's-
that
no,
one and
that's
another
the
one.
corner, that's the corner building, but then there's another one further down. There's
Oh.
one on Bay Street.
The railing is literally,
We don't need to get into specifics of who owns it,
Okay.
okay, that's.
Sarah had something.
Yeah.
All been talking about.
Into kind of all of that, of
Yeah.
like, the biggest points of that I kind of took for what we can really be involved in from the DDA would be like Bay Street and Third Street, and there are things that have overlapped with what we've already talked about of,
Inside.
you know, how to, yeah, like, how do we make Third Street more vibrant, and do we add some sort of art installations and things like that we've talked about, they've talked about, like, how do we then really take this, and if there's, you know, using our money, if we can get grant money and things like that, I mean, I think those are things that we could really partner with and really strengthen Third Street and Bay Street.
But, and can it be done without a battle?
Right, but I mean, we have to go into it with a positive view.
Yeah,
This is
no,
what we wanna
no,
do and
100%.
why we wanna do it, and if we're really, and if we can, you know, move these projects quicker, like, I know we've had struggles, but like, we got lights, and if we can get these things done, and I think that's where, if there's more parties involved that are in support of it too, you have a better chance of, you know, moving it forward with an organized plan, like, these are the things we wanna do, but I think that's where we can partner, or we can kind of take on some of that. And knowing that there is some support out there, that we mentioned in multiple things.
You know, it is frustrating. All the work that was put in, all that work that was put in, that it's just sitting there now, which, you know, will be resolved here pretty quick. But we can't get so frustrated that we can't think clearly and move forward. We are the DDA, there are lots of things we can do, but so much of it is ourselves. You know, that we just think clearly, and, you know, I know it's frustrating, there are times I'm like, you know, what's the point? But the other thing I just want to say is, you know, drawing new business into Harbor Springs is very, very important. But is there anything that we can do to encourage businesses to stay open in the winter? You know, we already have 2 of them that have moved out. Well, not counting Yummies. And, you know, I know we talked about this before, that whole block from Turkey's to the bank in the winter is empty. So there's no really, you know, I'm coming to town, and it's like, really? What, why did they store it? So that's not the, you know, we're not gonna solve that problem right now, because it involves.
Well, I think for that part to go off of Gail, one thing that I do, because I have a lot of people that come into town and be like, oh, I want to go shopping. I know places that are open, send them down to finishing
Right.
touch, because I've told them, you know, under new ownership, blah, 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 go down dressed. You know, make sure you check out McClutchy's, make sure you go over to Third, tell them about Cora's place. So I think talking to your employees or whoever's working to make sure that they know who's open, where they can go, who is consistent about their hours. I think that that's a big thing that we can do too, to help the businesses that are open. And maybe when people see, because I think that there are a lot of people that come into town, at least I have a lot of people that they make it a day. So that's something that we can do also as businesses that are open, is making sure that we know who's open around us and where they can go.
And one of the goals in this plan, that Victor's presenting today is a year-round economy. So
Yes.
that is overarching everything, and I'm glad that was brought up, because that was something I was gonna make sure you were all aware of, that is in there. And when I came and talked to the business owners, and that was one of the questions, because I did a walk up. And I'm gonna be honest with you, only about half of you think that that's an important, business owners think that's an important goal. They're happy with closing in the winter time.
I don't know if it's happy.
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
fine with it.
because, if probably Chuck, who knows, just right there, if you stay open and expect to employ people, you'll be in the vicious cycle of having an equity line that you run through all winter long, and then you pay for at the end of summer, and then winter comes along, and then and I'm kind of speaking of what Stafford's really used to do by being open year round for a lot of our properties. We made money 3 months out of the year and we lost it 9. And we always just hope that at the end of a fiscal year, that 3 months made up for the 9 months that we lost money. I mean, to the tune of $250,000, like in November, company-wide.
That's why I heard a lot of those comments.
I would love to have you guys
We're
come
not,
out.
I can go
Yeah.
open in Naples, I can go someplace else and make money, even Indianapolis, I could go. But I can't make it here, so.
How do we
how do
change?
we change that so they can make it here?
Yes.
That's the part of it.
What are you thinking, Chuck?
Yeah, I would.
Or a few.
A few.
We have learned just in the last 2 years that we have grown our business from, in the second year from the first year. And it's amazing how much repeat business that we do achieve in the winter months. And we can always tell when it's a local person in shopping, because they always ask, are you gonna be open for what during the winter? And we always say, yes, we think it's very important. It's part of part of our responsibility to contribute to the town. So I think there's opportunities. I think of the fact that if we get some social media going, who's open, how many stores are open, what's going on, and a little bit of pressure from the DDA and maybe the council, get some established days and hours, things like that, are recommended anyway. That it can only help. But I know we talked to some of our neighbors, and Greg Ryan's gonna stay open a little bit longer this year than last year, because they're starting to see that we keep talking about, we're making money in fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Maybe first quarter, not so much, but fourth quarter, you can make money. So if we can just get everybody to stay open to the New Year's time period, I think we got a good message. The other thing is, I do think we have to do a better job talking with the ski resorts in the wintertime. They have the traffic and they have the people that are looking for places to eat, and mom's not always going out skiing every day with the kids or whatever, and she has plenty of time. She would like to go strolling. Problem is, I think she goes to Petoskey instead of Harbor Springs, because they have the image, and maybe even the people that work at the ski resorts has the image that we're closed. So we have, I think, some fairly simple ways of starting the motion to go back, being a little bit more.
Two bad images that we've had for a long time. Every store is way too expensive for everything, and nothing's consistently open. That's,
But last year, I kind of agree with Chuck. I had a ton of people. We had a bunch of appointments made for people that were up skiing for the weekend that they couldn't ski, or they didn't want to ski on the bad snow. And I mean, I sent a ton of people through town And I mean, we're fully open. We're open 6 days a week. We're open from 9 to 8 most days. So, and like Chuck, I've grown my business quite a bit since 2020 and we are continually up and have been every year since 2020. And
That's not, I'm just saying that's the perception.
Well,
It is
no,
changing,
but
but
I'm
we need to
saying-
get that word out there
Yeah.
that it is changing.
but I think it,
So
but
you now
that's,
have two committees that are totally functional that can grab
Yeah.
onto these.
yeah,
Everything you've talked about falls under one of those committees.
And I think this is one of the reasons why we talk about a little bit of change in climate, because is this inconsistent winters? Are they gonna, skiers are gonna start to be like, well, why come in Harbor Springs when, you know, last year, 2 years in a row, it was bad snow, so maybe I'm gonna stop coming there and go somewhere else, or we've lost snowmobilers, you know, snowmobilers aren't coming up anymore because. So. Cross country skiers, yes, so we're like, how's that, are people gonna still come in the wintertime if the winter activities aren't happening? And that's something just, it's not within our control, but something we need to think about as how we can market ourselves to people, if winters are gonna continue to be more mild.
Well,
Anyway,
I think, Becky, you had a good point, right? We have strong committees, I think. The results of those two committees has been amazing. And we can take on, I mean, there are some quick wins. Like making sure that our employees in our stores know what stores are open. That's just a simple, easy fix. Getting them to do it, you know, might be a little challenging. If they didn't know we had tree lights or.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they thought we had tree lights, whatever. So is this, you know, I think that we can pull some of this into our committees. Just,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I think that's the best thing.
Victor, if we kind of hit on what kind
yeah,
of.
I have a few
input
notes
you-
here, yeah. Notes here that I think would be, I appreciate it.
Okay. Now we have this is a new, our promotions committee. The chair is going to present a committee report. And that's Jody, that's you for promotion, right?
Well, we were in that meeting and Nikki, I think you missed that one, and I just wanted to defer to you and make sure that you weren't interested in being the downtown promotion.
no,
committee
no, I'm here.
chair. Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, I'll do the ice fest.
Okay,
and
wait,
I'm
are you 100% sure?
I'm-
Okay.
Positive, Jody, that I'll support you.
Well, we obviously still have a lot to talk about, but the one thing that we worked on was the very quick put together downtown day, which to me was just heartwarming that we were able to do that. I realized we didn't get I think we may have had more people that attended because of that we're aware of. But we discussed, obviously, at a committee level that people really don't know how to hashtag. A lot of them go out there to post to Facebook and to tag themselves, tag downtown Harbor Springs. So somehow next year we need to make that easier for the shopping guests that we have. We have the first Ice Fest meeting next week. And, one question is, did we put a thank you note? Thank you.
Yes, it should be in the paper today.
Oh, excellent. Okay, cool. I have.
What she means is we took an ad in the
Oh, I'm
paper
sorry.
thanking all the merchants. Yeah, the two go out today.
Which is cool. I have nothing more on the promotions committee right now.
Well, I have to make it.
Okay,
This, Jody got the idea for this. She said, we should make a big deal out of the downtown day when I put it in the newsletter, and I hadn't really planned on doing that this year. But because I went to North Carolina over the weekend before, and she said, well, the committee can do it, and the committee just did it. I did a press release and I did and a message to all the merchants, and they just went ahead and did it, and it was phenomenally successful. And I was so impressed with that. And I have so much hope for what that committee can do in the future that it just showed me, it was strikingly impressive, I have to say. They just
Got me
went,
downtown, going downtown.
oh, really?
And the businesses.
So I really wanted to
support.
Yeah.
We asked for
You worked so hard.
donations, they just, there was no hesitation, not one. That said, I mean, those businesses that would never participate were like, of course, sounds like a great time. So that
It was
was
amazing.
And I think Gail and I were shocked when we were walking the streets. You know,
Well,
how many people, but I think Gail really deserves a great amount of praise for walking around and making sure she got every one of those, and then Chuck keeping guard over all of them, over all of the gifts, but I think almost this entire board was involved in one way or another.
it was a great success. I tried as hard as I could when I found out Tim Waltz was here. I used every avenue that I could because I wanted him to say, I'm in Harbor Springs on downtown day, and that wouldn't have been, and I failed, but they kept that pretty wrapped up.
excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just was thinking, I know that like we want to do the social media engagement and how we can do that, but I was thinking maybe like we could do like an alternative way. Like we could do like post, like tag us on social media or stop in your favorite shop and, you know,
Fill
I don't know,
something
fill something out and like we'll have like little cards and a fishbowl or something that we can take all of it. So like it's like two different ways to participate if you don't want to like go into a shop, if you just want to be downtown and hang out downtown and like utilize the parks or utilize something else that we have to offer.
We
opposed
talked
to-
about that.
Okay.
That
I
it
was,
was,
I was gonna email it back when we had been going back and forth about,
Yeah.
the drawing and stuff, and I was just saying next year, maybe we could do something that was.
Yeah. I completely agree.
I mean, there's, you know, we can just all, you know, print out some piece of paper and just be like, name, email, it's a good, you get email addresses.
We'll put that in the hands of the promo committee.
Did you guys know it was downtown? Oh, very good. Thank you so much. Thanks for paying attention.
Okay, what we'll do is, Margaret is the chair of Enhancers.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Margaret. And if you would just present your mini report.
So the enhancement committee has been involved with, we've kind of gone back and forth, the beautification of the city. And we did a walk around. We found several different things, sidewalk issues, not a lot, but some. We found a couple of areas, like when you're coming down the hill, there's a big section, like a triangular section that is just dirt right now that we thought could be used as a planting area, would be a green space of some sort. We've been talking about tree grates and trying to get the flowers out of below the trees and somewhere else in, so that we're not on our hands and knees, and that's gonna be easier to maintain. So I went around and one of the things I looked at was just on my own tree grates. And Mr. Cups, I'm glad you're here. No,
That's John Lee.
no, I did that last time. I want you to be Mr. Cups so bad.
I'm not counting a lot, but I'm not.
Anyway, the tree pits are, there's about 33 existing ones on just the main street. 2 of those are dead trees that are over kind of by Hilda's, where Hilda's was. And there are 2 missing, one just on the block of the theater, and then one across the street has been filled in. And from what I understand, where Cottage Company has taken over that whole corner, they don't want any trees there. So, but the tree grates, there's one that's 40 by 40, 2 that are 60 by 48, 26 that are 38 by 38, 2 that are 36 by 36, one that's 41 by 42, and one that's 52 by 39. So they're all different. So
I was, not to interrupt, but something that could help you with this project. Cindy Kramer, when she was here, we went through about 2 years worth of stuff for.
we have it.
Did you have it?
Yeah,
To our meeting.
Dana came to our meeting. I'll get you-
Even before Dana. Yep, yeah, even, and prior to that also.
We would like any.
Okay,
So
So
it has.
the tree grate thing is a big, great mess. So one of my ideas is, And Dana, who did come, who is the chair of the tree committee, she was trying to get the tree pit size standardized 48 by 48. And I think when I looked at tree grates and looked at the sidewalk, I think 48 by 60 is a better size. Because then we can have a bigger opening for the tree trunk and more space for the water to get in. The trees will be healthier. There'll be the ability to let the trees get a little bit bigger before we have to rip them out, and they have more of a chance of living. I did talk to Tom Moran, and he said he's at the starting blocks. He's ready to make some galvanized steel and paint it for tree grates. Any design, we could put Harbor Springs or HS or the data got incorporated. It could be all computerized. He's invited me to come and sit with a guy and figure that all out. And he said he'd make up to 3 of them or 4, whatever, and not charge us until future. I said I'd even be willing to pay for them. And so then we kind of got shut down on that because we've got all these different sizes. There are 2 that are the size I'm proposing, and one's in front of the theater. But I feel like I'm kind of at a standstill with it because no one can really make a commitment. And then, you know, we had one idea. We wanted to have the trash cans and maybe the light posts and the tree grates all be one color instead of multiple colors like they are now. So that's one whole thing. The tree grates are still kind of up in the air. I've been trying to work on that with Tom Moran, and then try to decide if I should go ahead and just build a couple and put them in and see what the reaction is, because there's always going to be a reaction.
Well, I know that the city, when we did this before, we even went as far as, Cindy had found a company or somewhere where because part of it was as the tree trunk grows, like you said, and then you have to rip them out, start again. She found where they could be adjustable.
Right.
We ran into the same issue with the sizing issues. We got a dead stop at the city because they didn't want to do the work to put them in, and also the price tag for the tree grates. Cause then the price tag was way more than what we could afford. And then we looked at this coating that you put over the trees that the water could permeate into, because also part of the issue that the city came up with was the shifting of the tree grates in the winter, which we didn't think was going to be that big of an issue because I brought up cities like Marquette that have them. But am I remembering correctly? We went through 2 or 3 years of this, maybe longer.
Well,
Right, John?
so-
I mean, we've gone through, like, we had a company that came in and walked through, and instead of when the city was like, no, we're not gonna make all the squares the same size, we had a company that came in and did individual, like, fixed all of that.
By cutting the cement
No, we were going to they were going
to remove.
because the
what she
cutting
said.
cement was a hard no.
So what Dana had suggested, which I think is over the top. I mean, this is where she had a lot of ideas that were just like heated sidewalks. I'm like, wow.
We did that.
So, she wanted to take the first 10 feet from the curb all along the sidewalk. And then she's talking about replacing the trees, less trees at different places. I'm thinking we keep the trees where they are, we just cut the cement bigger. And there are companies that Tom Moran told me about that do this all the time. Could just cut the cement a little wider, and then the tree grates would all fit.
Weren't we at about an $800,000 price tag? Wasn't that?
There was a lot of money.
Cause
It
John, I
was
mean,
years of discussion.
Yeah.
And my individual personal perspective is it failed because of feature creep.
Because of
We
what?
went feature creep. We kept adding, well, as long as we're gonna do that,
Well,
then let's do this. As long as we're gonna do that, then let's do that.
this is what Dana's report made me crazy because of that, but
Gail wants to comment, I wanna make.
Yeah.
This, this is bigger than this meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I think the enhancement committee should do all the research like you're doing. And this is let's call it a beautification, right? That's what we're looking at. So we can't get bogged down in the details right now because we do not have a plan. So, whether it be tree breaks, dead trees, etc. If the enhancement committee would look at it, bring some recommendations, right?
I would suggest to, not just Dana's, but I would suggest going back, I'm talking 9 years, going back and finding.
That's what I want.
It's more than 9 years because when I was on the board, like 20 years ago, we talked about it.
Yeah. But I
now
know
we have-
that we had made it to, like, we took it to council, like, we had a plan, we had
And I
a
think
budget.
The pricing that Tom Moran gave me was 500 to 600, at the most 1,000 apiece. So there's 32 grades, so that's 32,000. So if it was that much, but he is saying.
But that's
it's
just
gonna
for
be-
the.
I would,
So
I
here's
would,
what I wanna
All right,
do.
but the other
Okay.
thing I need to talk about is the planter.
Okay. Time, so for this meeting, what we'd like is a summary of what the committee has been working on. This is not the meeting for digging in deep for the details.
All right.
Because we haven't even, we all walk the town, our committee all walk the town. There are so many things that are on the list. Can be.
Margaret also has, the aquapots or whatever you wanna call them, that you want to talk about.
Well, I think that we need to talk about it in our enhancement committee and start saying, you know what, we looked at this, we researched back, 20 years or whatever it is. We're running out of time and, if that makes sense to you, we could sit here all day and hash out the details. We're just not ready yet.
Well, if I could just make one comment, everything that Margaret's talking about seems relatively simple and straightforward by cutting everything to a uniform size,
Right.
if we can. And I mean, I think we have so many committees and boards working so much better today than we did 20, even 10 years ago. I mean, the fact that 2 council members are here, one soon to be the mayor. We have, I don't think we'd have huge standstill at city council.
But we need a plan.
Well, we need,
need
right,
a
and
master
also,
plan.
I do want to alert the board that the enhancement committee is not gonna go ahead and make any of these changes.
Right.
This is just the
Right.
beginning conversations of these things. And the biggest thing that we did decide is that we do want all the research, we do want all the information. We don't want to redo everything that was done over the past 10 years because that's a waste of time. But at the same time, we don't want to go forward and present to you guys a plan that involves spending money just to turn around and pull it back out like we did, like the board before us it did with the lights. We don't want to have something like that happen again. I don't want to do the features like crazy where we have to like do a bunch of things, but doing as small, like as minimal as we can to create a plan that then we can grow from, opposed to a plan that we have to go do this and then, oh, no, just kidding, rip it back out. We don't want to do that. So it's just trying to figure that out. This is where it started, was this whole idea with the street grades, and we're super excited and we do want to pursue it, especially if we have Tom Moran's support and Margaret's support, and we really want to work forward with it, but we also
I
do need
agree.
to figure out a cohesive plan that
So
all
it's
this will fit in.
so it's-
Right, and the other thing.
So it's twofold, is that it's the grades. And then we do have the flowers someplace to brighten up the.
Yes.
Right, and so
Yeah,
the
that's
flowers, I think the combination, I took a bunch of photographs, I think a combination of some hanging and some pots. And that the aqua pot thing will go into another time, but
It doesn't have to.
I don't think it's gonna work out because from everything we've researched, so.
There's a lot of detail. They worked a lot, the enhancement committee.
I think it's amazing.
Walking
It'll be great to
around,
see it
et
come
cetera.
together.
It's just, we
Thank you
need
for,
to work to a plan.
Yeah.
To make
Thank you
sure
for
we
all
don't
your
make
work.
any errors and waste money.
thank you, Cora.
Yeah, thank
It's a
you.
different time, we have more money now, and it is a different time, so.
Uh-oh.
Nancy's looking like.
No, no, no. I think you're doing a great job. I think to hash a lot of it out in committee is a really good thing. Because you can get bogged, and I think it's all great ideas, but I think to come with a summary for your whole committee so you can keep moving it along.
Yeah.
Super important, super important.
Excellent. So just in time, we'll get back to that in our committee and we'll start making some.
And we'll get
plans,
we'll work on
decisions,
getting the
et cetera.
report,
Right.
all the rest of the information that we have.
I bet Cindy still has.
Okay.
For work.
We'll take everything, we've been taking everything we can find and trying to put it together.
Would you do your director's report?
Yes.
Yes.
Congratulations to Cora.
Yay.
And also to Gail and Sarah, I mean, to be nominated that's quite an honor. And as I said last month, it's quite an honor to the sport that they're all on the board, so good for that. This month, I'm giving you less details than I've been giving you in the past. We're trying to make the meeting more streamlined, but I have been working on the orientation packet. We're gonna have to have a DDA annual meeting in November and in December to fill the annual requirement of 2 meetings a year, although I have queried the state because there was no employee here for a while. Could we get by on one this year? I'm waiting for that answer. And then we would do it in December. I did send in the interview for the new Parks and Rec employee, and his name is, honestly, 4 excellent candidates. And I mean, in the last 10 years, I've done a whole ton of interviewing and hiring and firing, and I've never seen such a slate of good candidates. I was amazed. It was
Harbor Spring continues to amaze you every single
Lesser's of 5 evils before. It's just, it was, but the fellow that, I can't think of his last name.
Nate Sterling.
Nate,
It's Nate, but
Sterling's.
Sterling is okay.
and he lives in town.
Yeah. And he just interviewed beautifully, and it's like, effervescence with him, that he just wants to do this kind of work, and I think he's already begun, and I'm quite excited about that. So, and importantly, and we won't talk about this a lot yet, but I did attend a webinar for RAP, which is a MEC grant for revitalization and placemaking. And this program has been out for 3 or 4 years now. It gets reinvented every time they put it out. So I did do the webinar, and there'll be another one in November. And it's grant money that could be available next year, and we'll talk about it if we're interested. If there's a project in town that this could apply for, and we might be able to get money for what I think what Margaret was trying to get at is we're getting away from a streetscape project to a street beautification project. And that's the best way to go at this point in time, because we're not ready to rip up sidewalks and put in infrastructure. So that could be a project, and it also could be, you know, we'll get the first phase of the Merchants Walkway. I'm just throwing this out there because it could be quite controversial, but that could be a tremendous placemaking project. But the part of that would be, it's making it a place. And it would go back to your original plan of how you were thinking about doing it, that I would say if you chose to do this, maybe we'd have to go through some more public process and get reopened again, get some people on board, because I understand that there are people who don't necessarily want to make it a place. That would be a great placemaking project. And today, during the first formal discussion we had, when someone made the comment, maybe it was you, Victor, of Bay Street being like an entry to downtown because of the parking lot there, but there's no way to really enter it, but that could be the way to enter it. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And of course, if you apply for the grant, you go through all the work and there's no promise that you'll get it. One of the things they said in the webinar was that these are over applied for, and many excellent projects don't get it. But
Can I just throw one thing out?
yeah.
The annual report that we're required to do, if we do it in December, is there any way that, don't we do the one at the pier?
We haven't done that in 2 years. Because no one showed up to the last one we did. We had like 1 or 2 people show up. And that's different than what this is. This is the one that's like a public information.
Yeah, well, the public information one, couldn't we tie it in with the chamber? The one that the chamber does, and we just do the.
I think this is a different thing.
Yeah, this is for letting the people that contribute to the tip be aware. So it's a legal thing that you have to do, and it was made legal, I don't know.
And that was like something where we worked with all the, it was like the merchant meeting where we tried to get everyone to come in and
Oh, yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
what they wanted to see. And there was like 3 people that showed up and one person was like, I want more bike racks. And one person was like, I don't want any bike racks. And
That's right.
then that was like the end of the whole
This
meeting.
is
That was the best summer I've ever heard.
So we buy a dozen donuts, we all sit around, wait for a few people to show up and then you've given the opportunity to show the annual report, right?
Well, no, this is, it has to be at the meeting. This is different.
It is,
has to be at-
Jody, it's a legal thing that, state has said, there was some challenges to DDAs by, libraries and counties around the state a few years ago. And so now there's annual reporting that needs to be done. It's all very public. You have to put things on your website. I mean, you have to do it. I had to do it in Petoskey where they don't even have a functioning DDA. And no one from the college came, no one from the county came, no one, but I still had to do it. It's just, so I would like to do, because you have a DDA here, I'd like to do a better job. And I don't know what's the one, but what is that noise now?
Are you,
I'm finished.
oh, you're finished? Are we on to board member? Cause I have a comment I wanted to make really quick.
Well,
Are we on
wait,
board
after
member
pub-
Oh,
Public comment?
public comment, any comments?
Well done.
No.
If you would like, I mean, the schedule for the committees isn't online, but if you want to let me know when you meet, I'd be glad to come in and provide some historical and help wherever I can,
Absolutely,
That'd be great.
for sure.
as John Leo.
Leo, it's in my brain now.
Okay. board
Oh,
member?
I just, we had talked about adding skeleton stuff into our budget and I just wanted to give you guys an update. I sent something to, Bonnie and Becky about this. I had a really, really awesome couple. I mean, every single person, we get people in our stores and our businesses all the time. And they wanna like, you're like, what made you come in here? Like, you wanna ask them all these questions, like, you know, did you like my sign that I put up? Or did you like this? Or did you see my ad in the paper? Like, but you're not gonna ask every single person that. So these people came in and they were super, super nice. And they're like, oh my gosh, we love the skeletons. We came up a couple years ago during the skeletons and we came up here on a motorcycle today specifically to do the skeleton tour. We found your store because you were on the skeleton tour and we are super, super happy. We love your store and we love this town. And it was awesome. They're from like Metro Detroit and they just came up for the day. And they were like buying some stuff and they were gonna cruise up tall trees and they were gonna drive back home.
On that motorcycle.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
We have one at our house.
They might have stayed overnight. I'm not sure, but they were just here. It was like a day trip kind of thing. They might have stayed the night, but
That's
Um,
fabulous.
it was awesome. It was just super great feedback coming from something we were talking about.
Well, we put Phil wanted one to hang on our, or he's sitting on our balcony. Every time I come down Main Street and look up, I think he is sitting there. And it just like takes me aback. I'm like, is he jumping? What is he doing? Okay, any other comments? No? Excellent meeting. Thank you. We'll adjourn the meeting.